Out getting some cards so we can pass them out after we get started, but I'll get started so we keep on time here. Excited to do this panel for you folks. The question we have really is, who's going, here he comes, who's going to gigify rural America? So if you take a look at it, really there's two key components of that, and we want to leverage, those applications that we have that broadband can be used for by rural electric cooperatives, both internally and for their member cooperatives. I don't know if you realize, but there's 900 electric cooperatives in over 47 states, and they provide service to over 42 million customers. That's a significant opportunity to deliver not only electric service to those consumers out there that nobody else really wants to serve, but also to expand their services to include broadband. And then, of course, the other side in a rural environment is leveraging public-private partnerships to be able to enhance education, to be able to enhance healthcare services in rural communities and provide adoption services. So I brought together this panel, selected panel. I should mention my name is Joel Mulder. I forgot, Jane started off the conversation. But we work in the design build, and we're a member of the Rural Telecom Congress and a board member on the Congress, a very significant voice in broadband adoption and the continued implementation of broadband in rural America. I'm proud to be a member of that. So from an introduction standpoint, first to my left here I have Marshall Cherry. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Roanoke Electric Cooperative. Not Roanoke, Virginia, but Roanoke Valley Electric in North Carolina, I might add. They're beginning their work as Roanoke Connect to utilize broadband both internally and externally in their service area. You're going to hear from Marshall about the design, build, and the steps that he's taken to take the planning step to the next level to implement that network. Next, I have Mr. Paul Ellswick. Paul's president and CEO of Sunset Digital Communication. Several years ago, they worked with an electric cooperative called Powell Valley Electric to construct a fiber network in Tennessee and Virginia. This network really serves a dual purpose. It, of course, provides broadband, and Paul's the operator of that network within that service territory, but it also helps Powell Valley, I don't know why I have trouble saying that today, Powell Valley, to provide a significant thing to manage the peak demand charges and prevent outages within their service territory. Paul's going to expand on that. And oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I did bring the white paper that you have on that, so if you want to grab a hold of one of those, I think they'd be very interested in what other things you can do with a broadband network, especially in the electric cooperative marketplace. Finally, we have Dr. Mickey Slim sitting over here to my right. And if you read that bio that's in the seminar program, you'll see this guy is a passionate advocate of broadband in both the education and the healthcare market. He's been a champion, as you can read, in the expansion of broadband around the state of Texas, and importantly, that adoption of broadband for his customers. He's going to give you some insight on his current project, which is called NetNet, that is coming up. So with that, I'm going to turn it over, and let's see if I can do this exactly right, to Marshall to give the first presentation in F5. Perfect.
Good morning, everyone. Of course, this Roanoke Connect project that we're doing at Roanoke Electric, I kind of consider that the flagship of a lot of our community and economic development work, which probably dates back, of course, co-ops by nature, of course, are heavily involved with their communities, but this particular work here probably dates back about 15 years. As a matter of fact, we've worked very closely with Jane Smith-Patterson, who's here, over the years when she was with the Rural Internet Access Authority, as well as the Electric North Carolina Authority, or Electronic North Carolina Authority. As a matter of fact, our president and CEO was one of the first sitting commissioners of that RIAA organization. And so this piece is one that really has been pretty passionate for us. And so as this opportunity has presented itself for us, we definitely have jumped on board and are looking very much forward to bringing this one to fruition. Just to give you a little bit of information about our scorecard, of course, we're obviously, again, one of the electric co-ops. We cover about 1,500 square miles of service area, about 40 million in revenue, operating revenue, and of course, 2,200 miles of line. We have about 14,700 meters on our system, and we're heavily residential, about 95% residential. We're located in northeastern North Carolina. Of course, North Carolina, obviously the home of the Duke Blue Devils, but they're a little west of us, I'm sorry. So anyway, the top right corner that you see there in the red, this really drives the why behind our work. Again, because this just covers runs the gamut of a lot of areas of focus where we're really trying to address challenges in eastern North Carolina. We're located in the northeast, and that area that's plastered in red at the top kind of covers our entire service area. Red on this map is not a great thing. North Carolina, I believe, is the 9th most populous state in the country. However, the area in which we serve at Roanoke, does not really see the same parallel there. As a matter of fact, we have a declining membership-based population, losing, of course, at a pace, of course. And these red counties actually represent the projection from the year 2010 to 2020. The counties in the state of North Carolina who will see some type of loss in terms of population. And so you'll see the green areas are really kind of in the Raleigh-Durham area, taking I-40 onto I-85 all the way down to Charlotte. Typically, those are the areas where people are migrating towards. So we're seeing a major exodus of our members and, of course, in our populations. This does have an impact, just the area itself. Even we have a lot of economic challenges, whereas income, we have a pretty high, of course, poverty rate. And so with that, there are a lot of times there are investments in homes that are not going to be energy efficient. And so we see this project as one that will help us at the very least help members do a better job of managing their energy and being more real time and proactive in communicating with them. We have a lot of homes on our system that are mobile homes. And of course, for those of you working with the co-ops, know that typically the building material there is one that's going to lose heat at a much faster rate than a standard house or single family detached home. So we're about 3 times, as a matter of fact, the penetration of mobile homes in our service area in comparison to the average electric cooperative in the country. Average monthly electric bill, again, here's another area we're really trying to address. The bars to the left in this graph, the green ones represent us at Roanoke. And just wanted to bring your attention to if you can see, the $251 to $500 range. We have almost over 30% of our members reporting, on average, a bill in that range, whereas, again, this is measuring ourselves against a national benchmark. That same number is about 10%. So that brings a lot of challenges for our staff in trying to provide the service and electricity to our members, because we're frequently, constantly, faced with how can we, help members address these issues. How can we live up to, and many of us have the word in our mission statement, providing safe, reliable, and affordable electricity, and how do we really drive to it? And so we're definitely very, very interested in finding ways, again, where we can be proactive in working with our members. We have launched several programs that we're working on, and I'll talk more on those as well. Devices, of course, this again came from the National Cooperative Difference Survey. This is where these graphs are coming from. And as you can see, there's a major dearth of devices, whereas there's a need to connect and communicate with our members. And a lot of it is based on the fact that, there's limited affordable high-speed internet access in our service area. There are a number of folks who are reporting out to us that they're having to, use things like satellite, which of course has proven itself to be pretty expensive. And so everywhere you see in the green, of course, home internet, desktops, laptops, tablets, smartphones. We're on the lower end in comparison to the benchmark. But when you see landline telephones, we're above. And so, and of course, in wireless routers, again, we're below. And so we have, definitely we have items that we're really having to work through there. This just is really a strategy map that we have laid out for our organization. And the Rome Connect project is one of these major initiatives that we're taking on to help us address a number of things or pieces that we're really trying to accomplish on behalf of our members and responding to things that they are kind of calling us out on in terms of surveys and what they would like to see. Obviously, rates is always at the top of mind, but there are things that we know that can be done to support, affordable electricity. Of course, things like, trying to do better in terms of reliability, reducing outage frequency, A, and of course, B, the duration of those outages. And we see this project as one that can really help us with our overall outage management system. Just helps us overall leverage technologies that we have available to us. Line loss, which is a part of our goal of low cost. We really can see that as an opportunity. This project is an opportunity to help support the work that we need to do in terms of measuring what's actually being sold in comparison to what we're consuming as an overall organization. And so with that, we just see so many different layers of support that our fiber build out can do for us as we are progressing forward for our members, again, with energy efficiency programs, outage management, a reliable system, etc. This just really is kind of a map of our project. As a matter of fact, state of North Carolina, through the MCNC network, has actually deployed a fiber project, and so our game plan is to really we're going to build a 200-mile deployment, and we want to progress that over about a 2-year period of time, leasing some of the dark fiber that's already in our area based on the project that has been done by the MCNC network. Of course, definitely open access is going to be a big part of our work, and of course, developing this as a ring overall. And so this project, again, we're very early in stages. As a matter of fact, we have not gone to the construction phase yet. We're probably a few months out before we get to that point. But of course, this is really the design of where we are to date, and we're looking forward again to this really taking care of a lot of our internal needs that we have as an organization. But we also realize the economic impact that such a project can have on our service territory. So the end result is one that we're really hoping to help us identify higher ACSI scores, as well as just helping our overall community address some of the challenges that we do face. And anything else, of course, I'll address during our Q&A session.
Thank you, Marshall. So you're seeing that the electric cooperative starting. Now we'll go to Paul and talk about the existing cooperative and some of the applications and some of the things that he found he could put on a broadband system besides just broadband to help the electric cooperative with their goal in life to service their customers. And let's see if I can make this work twice in a row. Success. Oh,
That one's fine.
and it doesn't work twice. There we go. Now success.
Paul, that was fine. There you go, Paul.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm the president of Sunset Digital Communications. We're the result of a bet that we could deploy fiber optics in conjunction with public water. Started in 2002, and we designed a method to install cable underneath the public water line in conjunction with a ditch that had already been dug at the cost of $12.50 a foot. From that, it expanded to where now we're in 3 counties in Virginia, 2 counties in Tennessee, and the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and the city of Danville, Virginia. We're family owned. We're capitalistic. We're for profit. However, we pay for any grant money in Virginia. It was financed by grant money. However, we pay a debt retirement on that back to the agencies that obtained the grant funding. So we do have a capital cost that we're paying back. We're still profitable. We were the third fiber optic project in the country. Grand County, Oregon was first, Provo, Utah was second, and we're third with the first fiber to the home projects that started back in 2001, 2, and 3. We were funded by the Virginia Tobacco Commission, which directed the funds from the tobacco settlement from the tobacco cigarette companies to reinvent the economy of Virginia, Southwest Virginia. And we believe we're the only private company doing rural fiber to the home. So there's a lot of key words in that claim. Right now we have 40 gigabits of internet backbone, 20 to Ashburn, Virginia, 20 to Atlanta, Telex. We're a tier 2 carrier, which means tier 1 carrier is 100% fee-free peering. Tier 3 is 100% I pay for every megabyte I resell. We do both. Currently, 71% of our traffic's peered, 51% of it originates on our network, and we pay for 29% of our traffic out to our customers. We're directly peered with the major content providers, and the last line sort of repeats. We accidentally got into the wholesale business. We only have 2,000 customers in Virginia, but we've got an RUS BIP award of $24 million for Tennessee, and part of that award was to bring broadband to Southwest Virginia and Upper East Tennessee. They make fun of me at the office. I learned that when you write grants, if you have a cool marketing name, they seem to get funded better than people that don't have a name. So we call it our digital nexus, which we trade with a tricky thing. But we have achieved that goal with dense wave division multiplexing backbones into the area from the low-cost carriers, and like I say, 40 gigabits of internet. We specialize in rural areas. We've developed methods to deploy with the right partner. The right partners, we believe, are electric cooperatives into rural areas. We believe that it has a good market. We're not going to be overbuilt because people are not standing in line to come build in rural America. So we've got protection of our market. We can charge a premium price. You're not going to get the $19.95 special that you can get in downtown Richmond or downtown Austin from us. It will be a premium price, but there'll be a good quality product that you can run your business or your farm or whatever. Recently, we got into meeting the needs of electric cooperatives. And first off, as a disclaimer, I know enough about electricity to be dangerous. So don't anybody hold my feet to the fire when I start talking about stuff that I don't know what I'm talking about. But we connected all the Poway Electric substations, most downline devices, reclosers, regulators, and they also have a 20 megawatt diesel generating facility, which is under contract to Tennessee Valley Authority. I didn't know this. This is not to de-peak their load, but a power station, if it goes dead, has to have excitation voltage on the network to come back up. So TVA pays them to have that 20 megawatts available to crank in 9 minutes. Well, without our fiber, they couldn't keep a copper line up long enough to start the generators in 9 minutes. So our fiber has facilitated this $700,000 or $800,000 a year contract to start the generators in 9 minutes. And they're tested 3 times a year to comply with that. They have documented savings of services, examples, and I'm sure you that are co-ops are familiar with it. If you send a contractor out to work on a distribution line, there's a device called a recloser. Well, the recloser's purpose in life is to keep slamming the circuit shut and try and burn a tree or limb off of the line or blow a fuse to minimize the outage. Well, you put a contractor on that line, if they should have an accident and get entangled in the power, they don't want that to happen 4 times to the guy holding the power. If he happens to live the first time, you don't want to kill him with 3 more shots. So they have to set the reclosers to what they call one shot every time they have somebody working down line. And that involves a truck roll, maintenance, man, this type of thing. You add up those type of savings, the savings to making the generators work. They do a lot of voltage reduction. The less your voltage, the lower your kilowatts are going to read, which is the lower your bill to the electric company. So during peak demand, they lower the voltage, and the question I'll get is, well, that'll burn out my stove eye on the end of on the line. Well, they actually have TWACs, and they sample the voltage on the end of the line and keep all voltages within what they call Class A voltage, which is an ANSI standard for all their customers. They don't do it aggressively enough to degrade the voltage into something that will hurt the consumers. They do this, it reduces their load. During January, it saved them $50,000 for 1 month's wholesale electric bill, just by reducing the voltage. They have other issues, which is way above my head, but apparently you can put too much electricity on the line and the TVA will penalize them for it. So they have capacitors to prevent that from happening, and they save like $10,000 a month penalty by operating that type of thing. In planning, they want to go with a real-time advanced metering infrastructure. They currently read their meters by TWACs, which can, the meter can send a packet of information, a batch information back 4 times an hour. The reason is it has to short circuit the phase wires to send it, and it heats up. So after 4 times, it's too hot to work. What they need is real-time meter reading, which our network would provide, and they can actually watch the graph in real time of what the power's doing, what the voltage is, and also in the future through Wi-Fi, control your refrigerator, your heat pump, your dryer, and this type of thing, and deep peak. To give you an idea of the magnitude of this deep peaking savings, their January, I think, peaks at $2.2 million of extra demand charge to TVA over their electric bill, because of the peak load goes to, last year went to 205 megawatts. And if they can take $1 million off of that, that's a pretty big lick for them. And the fiber will do it, and the advanced metering will do it. Our strategy is to partner with the power company. They have the right-of-way, which is the biggest barrier of entry to rural America. They have the ability to be the judge of the National Electric Code, to reduce your engineering costs, and using advanced methodologies of all dielectric self-supporting cable, which is a non-conductor, they can reduce your deployment costs dramatically. And we find that there is a business model to commercially deploy in rural areas, contrary to what you read in the newspaper. Right now, there's another opportunity is the FCC is reallocating subsidies. They've been subsidizing telephone service for 75 years in rural America. They are reallocating that to broadband. So by census block, they know how much money they've been spending, and they're going to have a reverse auction process. It was scheduled for the spring. It's the federal government. What can I say? It might be spring next year. I'm not sure when it's going to happen. But they're going to auction people to bid on these census blocks to provide services, lifeline services to everybody in the census block. Who better to partner with than the Rural Electric Cooperative to do that? You get FCC funding to offset the cost, and then you've got revenue to pay it back. Our model is the electric cooperative helps us obtain the credit because there's a letter of credit required with the FCC to withstand the money to help us stand good for that letter of credit. And in turn, they get all the services they need for this AMI forever, and FCC and Sunset pays the debt back. So it costs them nothing to do it now. If they wait and do it with their customers, it costs their consumers, and the consumers have to pay this bill back through the electric bill. Reverse auction is $4.5 billion. They're talking about this year right now, but it'll probably be next year the way it's going. You must, if you're awarded this money, you must be able to serve all customers in the proposed area within 5 years, and you have to have the letter of credit, which I mentioned, to equal the amount of subsidy. And right now, you have to have the letter of credit for 10 years plus 120 days. There is a movement to try and get it down to the construction period, which would half the amount and half the time that you had to have it. The thing to warn you about this is if you took advantage of this, to be sure of your technology and your ability to deliver, because the FCC will come take their money back with the letter of credit. So you could lose all of your subsidy back if you don't perform. So you need to be 100% sure of performance. And that's pretty much a background on our company and our partnership with the Electric Cooperative. And I'll the way for specific questions.
Thanks, Paul. So it's always strikes me when I come to these shows and get a chance to hear the folks like this. Wally Haase from Navajo is a good friend, grew up in the same town that I'm in St. Charles, and was the manager of the municipal utility for St. Charles Electric. And I said to Wally after I heard him up here, I said, Wally, did you ever believe back in the 1990s or early 80s or late 80s that you would know as much as you do about broadband? And I'm sure hearing Paul talk about this, he's a wealth of knowledge on broadband. You can tell he's learned a lot about electric cooperatives and what those applications and everything are needed in order to make that a success. Along with that, of course, the electric cooperatives are starting to now face some of the things as public power companies, which is the NERC SIP requirements to protect their substations and give the information that the federal government needs and wants in order to sustain those substations. So we're going to flip now over to education and healthcare, another major portion and a major opportunity to expand broadband in rural America. And I'll see if I can do this one correctly. So here's Mickey Slim. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good to be with you today. I'm Mickey Slimp. I'm from Tyler, Texas. I'm actually based at the University of Texas Health Science Center in Tyler, Texas, UT Health Northeast. And we've been working on broadband in our region since the mid-90s. Our project started from a variety of sources. We began with a group of public schools that were trying to join together to do shared video services in partnership with rural cable companies. We had a second initiative that began similarly among the colleges and universities in the region. And I was a part of that one, writing the first grant for it in '94, again to do video services through the region. We really didn't know that much about what we call broadband now then. We were looking at T1 lines crossing our rural territory. We had one cable company in the area, though, that was installing fiber at the time, People's Telephone in Quitman, Texas. And so they had one of the first fiber school networks in the country that was put in the mid-90s. So they were involved with us. At the same time, we were working on healthcare, and UT Health, where I am now, was working on doing some early telemedicine activities. And so they created a project. My main group that I work with is NetNet. That's the Northeast Texas Network. And it's a project that is supported by the Northeast Texas Consortium of Colleges and Universities. Their mission is to expand access to health care and to educational services for the rural population of Northeast Texas. And if you look at this map, this kind of shows you where we are in reference to where we are today. I describe it basically as the rural areas east of Dallas and north of Houston. Now, interesting thing, we call that the border areas, but when we talk about the border, we're talking about Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. People think of Texas and they think of the border areas as being impoverished, as having issues with education, as being rural. What most people don't realize, the most impoverished county in Texas is actually Red River County. It's on the border between Texas and Oklahoma. I like to share that the population there, like you're talking about in North Carolina, has decreased several percent over the last decade, and the sighting of black bears has tripled during the same time period. We just did a study. The East Texas Council of Governments commissioned a study of this region. We also have a Center for Rural Health and Education that's based at UT Health in Tyler. And they've been conducting studies. The life expectancy in this region is several years less than the remainder of Texas. One of the issues that we face. The educational level is at the same level as in the valley, maybe a little less than that. the poverty level is lower than in the valley per capita. It's just kind of interesting when you look at that and you see what's going on in the area. One of the studies that was commissioned to look at psychiatric needs of the region. And we had 60% higher suicide rate in this region than in other areas of Texas. We had a lower grouping of psychiatric providers in the area than the rest of Texas. And I'll get my numbers wrong, but where the rest of Texas, it was about, I think, several hundred providers per 10,000 population. It was down in the teens for our region. And so you see a lot of issues going on here that if you're in a rural part of the country, you probably have parallels to this. And so this is what we've been looking at in this area, and we're looking at how broadband can help us. Looking at those partnerships, the grant that I told you about we worked on in the mid-90s, we weren't successful with that, but it was a good startup point. And that pulled our colleges together. They went back to the legislature. In '96, got approval for funding to start the planning process. In '98, they got the funding, about $30 million to build the network. And this was wireless. We looked at OC3 networking based off microwave towers. And so that's been kind of the core of our network. And those red lines that you see there, Texarkana in the northeast corner, in the northwest corner, Paris Junior College and A&M Texas, or A&M Commerce are those. To the south, we went to Stephen F. Austin, which is in Nacogdoches, Texas. And then we went to a group of community college branches called Trinity Valley Community College, going to the southwest there. And that was the basis of our network. OC3s, as you know, give us 155 megabit of connectivity. That was quite a bit when we put that in place around 2000. We thought that would last us for about 20 to 25 years. Here it is 15 years later and we're out of bandwidth. So we've been looking at how we can go to gig circuits and go more to meet what we have with our population. You see the dotted lines there. And where I was talking about the issues with East Texas, these dotted lines combined with those issues to help us start gigifying our area. And I have a goal with our area to basically have all of our colleges and universities the connectivity that they need, whether that's a gig a little bit later, if that's 10 gig, whatever it is, at a cost to them of about $1,000 or less per month. And so that's what we've been working with. We've had some success with VTOP workforce in the northern part of our region. And where that center dot is there, the triangle, or the diamond actually, that's UT Health. That's our primary hub. North of there, we were successful with VTOP grants. And so People's Telephone again worked with us and was able to lay about 600 miles of fiber to the north. A&M System was successful with a statewide grant, which we have 2 A&M campuses in our region. And, you know, there is hope for the world because I'm based at a UT campus, and we work well with our A&M brethren in the Northeast. The A&M System built fiber going from Dallas to A&M Commerce to Texarkana, and then did a 10 gig connection to us at UT Health in Tyler, so we're using that to get to the northern part of the district. In the southern part, we didn't get that funding, so we've been using the FCC money to go there. And we've been partnering both with our colleges, which provide nursing education and other healthcare programs, to connect them to UT Health for the hospital services. We're doing nursing clinics at those locations, a number of services there, and we're tying them into their local hospitals where they have clinical education programs. So we've been successful in getting gig connections through the FCC project for those sites. We've also, with our psychiatric project, we've been expanding to our psychiatric providers in the region. And this has been a very useful partnership. One town you may have heard of is Jasper, Texas. And talking about it, it's on the border of Texas and Louisiana, a fairly impoverished community. Jasper had minimal professional opportunities for folks to get an education there. Angelina College, based in Lufkin, Texas, built a nursing program there, a complete associate degree nursing program. They're graduating about 30 nurses a year, and did their connectivity in partnership with our educational network back to Angelina College. We have an issue with T1 lines. They're still using T1 lines, and some actions in the legislature this year have removed the rates that we had on those in the past few years, where we could connect at a few $100s a month with the T1. Those rates are going up to $600, even sometimes several $1,000s to make those connections. Well, Angelina College is now partnering with the Burke Center, which is a psychiatric center in East Texas. Burke is using one of our gig circuits through the FCC Rural Health Initiative to go to Jasper, and so Angelina College is also going to ride that circuitry to feed their nursing program that's in Jasper. So we're bringing these disparate groupings together to build our networking and to get gig circuits. Now, the interesting thing about Jasper is there's no broadband prior to our project in Jasper, nothing more than T1s. So, you know, one of my college presidents several years ago wrote a beautiful article, it's in the Community College Journal, about what he needed to do for his campus for it to grow. He's in Carthage, Texas. He said if there was one thing that he could do for his campus, beyond building buildings, putting in a library, improving the baseball program, it would be to get internet service to his students at their homes. And so this is one of my goals as we build this program. I'm trying to find anchor institutions that we can justify using the FCC monies and other monies to go to our communities in the region. But as this partners with the providers, my real hope is that it will open commercial services in those areas where there's been little to no service before. And that we can get services to the home, to our students, so that they can have an opportunity for education, so that our nursing homes and such in those areas can have access to health care. And so we've been looking at that. Over the past 6 months, and it's actually been a year or so in the making, built on a meeting that I had at this conference several years ago when it was in Dallas. I met some of the folks from Magellan Advisors, GS4, met some folks from there, and we started talking about what we were doing in Northeast Texas. And I said, you know, we really could take a good look with our aging OC3 network. I would like to see us have an infrastructure that I'll feel good about for the next 20, 25 years. And that means having, hopefully, if not dark fiber itself to all of our locations, access with partners to the bandwidth we need to all of those locations, again, at that pricing that we can budget for and we can plan long range for to meet our needs. And so working with those folks, we spent about a year pulling together funding for our planning process. And back early this year, in January, well actually it was in the fall, we initiated that study. And so we're looking at our area and what we can do. One of our main connections that we have being at a UT site is useful for us because we have access through UT to the Texas Advanced Computing Center here. We have a 10 gig circuit that comes back to Austin through that to connect to it. We also have a project some of you may have heard about in Texas. It's the Lone Star Education and Research Network. It's our connection into Internet 2, into the US UCAN project. It's the fiber optic network that serves the research and educational institutions in Texas. So we're the hub for our region into that network. So we have connections back to Dallas going into that circuitry. As we expand our network through this project, here's kind of the map that we're looking at. Again, we have Learn connectivity and the BTOP project giving us one circuit up to Texarkana. But we're looking at doing an additional fiber circuit into Texarkana. We want to expand a little bit. We don't want to get far beyond our current boundaries, but Grayson College is a small community college in Denison, Texas, about 70, 80 miles north of Dallas. Fits our demographic very well. It's a rural location. And they have a winery program, so we're really eager to get them involved in our group. But we're looking at, can we bring Grayson into our network? So that would be our northwest corner there. We're looking at extending our fiber along the borders, coming along that north border. There's a lot of towns there. Clarksville has minimal to no service now. New Boston, DeKalb, very little service there. There's a major Army facility between New Boston and Texarkana. And Texarkana College has a center there for economic development. They're wanting connectivity there. So we're looking at how we can reach that side. We're looking at how we can come along that eastern border again too, because there's a lot of small communities down through there that our colleges have campuses in or remote sites in, but very little connectivity to those locations. We also have a partnership with 30 independent school districts. So we're looking at how we can serve those sites at the same time. Conterra is a company that's here this week. They're doing a project in that area, so we're looking at how we can partner with them too in the process to help expand our connectivity to our high schools and to work in that scenario with our colleges and healthcare centers. So this is a look at where we're going. The bottom, our dream is to go down to Beaumont because there's an additional connection to learn in Beaumont. So that would give us another circle through East Texas to bring the loop to that. One of the things in our rural area that has been really damaging to us, and with our rural healthcare, one of the things that I've seen is we've had backhoes hit our fiber in East Texas, and our psychiatric services that we're providing in rural locations have been knocked out for a day or two, which, you can be in a pretty critical activity. Those are serving not only remote psychiatric locations, but jails. We're looking at doing consults with folks who are in prison, things of that nature. And you really don't want to be cut when you're in the middle of a psychiatric discussion. And so one of my goals is to have redundant connectivity. And ours is supposed to say redundancy with the FCC. We really are doing protected circuits and we're doing dual service to these sites. But, my goal is to wherever we have a critical site, meaning a school or a medical treatment facility, that we have at least 2 connections in that location, ideally 3 connections. And my preference is multiple providers in that area so that we can have complete redundancy. If one provider is having an issue, the other provider is there for backup. I'm against the philosophy that we're the sole source of connectivity and internet service for our locations. I encourage all of my locations, if there's a local provider, connect to the local provider and connect to us. So if our circuit goes down, you still haven't lost your connection to the internet at least, and you still have a way out. So we're looking at that for our region and seeing what we can make occur over the next few years. And Joel, I'll turn it back to you.
First asked Mickey to be on the panel, I said, tell me about your network. And I finally said, I'm going to have to get a Gantt chart or something to connect all these dots that you have out there and all the different funding programs. I've got some questions, but we have about 10 minutes left right now, so I'd like to toss it out to the audience if any of you have some questions for these folks. Okay, go ahead, Neil.
Mr. Smith, the management of the network that it's managed through the University of Texas?
University of Texas Health Science Center.
Okay, and the next question I have has to do with any aggregation of demand with the commercial or private sector where residential might also be able to utilize the network services and the connectivity to the internet. Are you working with any providers so that those ISPs might be able to provide to commercial and use your process, your backhaul?
We, being a government entity, we cannot directly do that type of activity through our network. Now, as we create our new networking, we'll be looking at partnerships And exactly the same situation we have with People's Telephone right now. And that we partnered with them to actually acquire the B-Top, and the B-Top came in their name. So they give us access to services, but they actually own the fiber in that scenario. We may look this time where we actually install in partnership with some commercial ISPs, and we divide the fiber bundles so that they will help us with our matching funding. They will have access to a certain number of fibers in that way.
So essentially what's happened, and I don't mean to be critical, but the citizenry of the state of Texas, along with federal government citizens, have paid for a fairly significant medical or university or training system. Video started with a video basis of roots. And they put dollars into it. They have a network that's wonderful and big and substantial. They themselves in their own homes and their businesses still have T1 lines. They survive on in those same areas where you have a significant network. So they have to go out and spend more dollars to build their own network because the government sucked all the air out of the system, building a government-based network and nothing available for the citizens who paid for it. Am I being too critical or too?
You're being incorrect.
I'm being incorrect.
Yeah, you're being incorrect.
Okay, so
Okay.
correct me where I'm
Okay.
wrong there.
Couple of things there. The original networking, yes. The OC3 network was built where there was nothing. And it kind of predated the whole broadband movement. So with that scenario, yes. It was being used by anchor institutions, no commercial. With the FCC, of course, we simply serve as an anchor client on those circuits. So the circuitry is installed by a commercial provider, maybe Windstream, maybe CenturyLink, maybe Suddenlink, could be AT&T. This provides funding and an anchor client for them to build fiber into an area. Once they're into that area, they can do whatever they like with that fiber. So the ideal situation is that opens up commercial services in that region. In a region that normally would not have the base capital to serve the commercial clientele, the residential clientele, suddenly has that baseline so that they can go into that area.
Has that been the fact? Have they in fact built up?
It's too new.
Okay.
So we've been placing hubs in locations, and some of the ways I've been targeting where my hubs go is to make sure they go to communities that have enough of a commercial base so it can sustain a project, but have not justified it so far. So I've got Crockett, Texas is a town of about 20,000. We've got about 10 individual gig circuits going into there now. It's been up for about 7 months. So we're seeing advertising going into that area and them saying, okay, here's services we've got here now. We've done the same thing in Athens. Athens now has a couple of providers going into Athens. And so we've seen real growth in Athens. So I'm hoping that we will see this occur. But it's up to me. And I have exactly the same concern with you. I even have the philosophical concern, will we prevent other providers from going into areas? And so, we've got a baseline. Texas is a very conservative state. We're in a rural area that's very conservative. So, so far I've had very strong support from my legislators in the area for what we're doing because they've run up into the same problems. They aren't seeing things happening in their communities without this.
It may be just a different messaging that we need to figure out how to do this so that the aggregation of demand works for the individuals and businesses in the area, so that individual citizens in their own homes can pay for and have the infrastructure they need without having to pay for it twice.
Right. One of our main partners in the process has been the Council of Governments, the East Texas Council of Governments, the Texark Council of Governments, Deep East Texas Council of Governments, which mainly are representatives of the commercial interest in the areas. And so they're seeing us as a method for getting the funding in that they might not otherwise get. But their interest is handling the industrial parks, those kinds of things, and getting service to those guys.
Okay.
Have another question coming up over here.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Bernadine Jocelyn with Landon Foundation in Minnesota, where we're in a co-op-rich environment. And we're very interested in Minnesota in exploring the role of co-ops as a good delivery mechanisms for underserved communities. And I have a question especially for Mr. Cherry in that regard. In your working with electric co-ops in your region, are you talking to co-ops that currently don't deliver broadband as part of their service package, but are, trying to engage them in thinking about adding broadband as a service to your co-ops? And if so, how's that going? And if not, why not? Thank you.
Well, actually, thank you for the question. The major area of focus with respect to our individual co-op as a project and some of the others that are in our 26 co-op network in the state has really been more focused on our systems and being able to flesh out more in our AMI and SCADA work, and of course just making sure that we're up to speed on our energy delivery services. Now we are of course identifying obviously the ancillary benefit is the opportunity that we have to the our greater communities, and in our case we're all kind of autonomous, so that with respect to the leadership and the vision for each individual co-op, they do kind of vary, but in our case, as you can see from some of the numbers that I was able to lay out earlier, there's just a mission for us to do all that we can to support our communities. And even this project, we can identify where it can connect to helping us raise some of our customer satisfaction scores. So for us, definitely it is a passion. We have had, to further answer your question, a conversation here recently with one of our neighboring co-ops, actually right next door to us, who has shown interest because the county in one of the counties that we serve actually does have 2 electric co-ops in that county, and the county leadership is interested in supporting our project to be able to deploy more of the availability in their individual county. And so seemingly those conversations are going well right now with our neighboring co-op.
Joe, can I just ask one question here quickly? I wanted to ask Mr. Ellswick, you said you're private, and there's a great public-private partnership thing from NTIA that I left some copies over here trying to get it out to everybody. But and you're one of the few in the country you think that's done something like this. Do you think there'll be more private sector companies that will work with electric co-ops?
I think it's going to be necessary to get rural broadband deployed. It's some huge number, like 80% of the land area in the United States are served by electric cooperatives. They've already solved the right-of-way issue with the power distribution. In our area, it's Tennessee Valley Authority, the REA. They've already got poles out there, right-of-way. All they've got to do is put fiber on the poles to get to all 100% of the rural consumers. The travesty is, I heard in here yesterday, they're talking about, well, we'll just default and let 60% of the country be wireless. Well, wireless won't scale. I think it will come. It's an economic and a perception point of view. Everybody believes that wireless will solve the problem and fiber's too expensive. I'm here to tell you that fiber's not too expensive. I can make a business model and make it work. I'm shouting into the wind right now, as it appears, but hopefully that's going to change. Now, as far as the other lady's question, we think 15% of the co-ops are paradigm shifters. They're willing to think of new ideas and stick their neck out to get in the broadband business. Now, we are trying to form partnerships with these co-ops to provide the broadband expertise. Their main mission is to provide electric service. Sometimes there are state regulations preventing them from being telecommunications carriers. And so we try to overcome that. We join with them and overcome the state regulations and the prohibitions that are out there to do it. But yes, ma'am, I think that's the answer to rural broadband, period. But that's the reason I'm here, trying to do a little preaching.
So thank you much from PRTC for attending all the sessions that we've had here. Appreciate your participation, your questions. Please give a round of applause to our panelists here. They're up here. opportunities here, if you go out and grab lunch and then bring it back in here so we can get started with the next session, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you again.
Thanks, Joel, and let me tell everyone that we'll be back next year, RTC, with this whole initiative again, and so we hope to see you next year. And we'll be in touch. We've got information on your emails to say, are there some other sessions you'd like us to put together? So thanks a lot. Goodbye.